Thank you for that absolutely beautiful song. So how many here know the hymn In the Bleak Midwinter? Who's heard it before? Okay. How many of you know it in its Unitarian Universalist context or in its original context? Or even know there was an original context? You've been Unitarian so long. Okay, that you know it in this. I'm going to start by reminding us of the words that we have just sung. In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind may moan. Earth stood hard and as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow, in the bleak midwinter, long ago. Once more child and mother weave their magic spell, touching hearts with wonder words can never tell. In the bleak midwinter, in this world of pain, where our hearts are open, love is born again. Those are not all the original words. The first stanza is, that hymn was written, it was a poem written by a woman named Christina Rossetti. In 1872, it was published in England, and it was turned into a hymn to that lovely melody that we sang, which is easy for people to sing. And it had a much more heavily biblically Christian-focused meaning. And it had 5 or 6 verses, and they went right through the nativity narrative. And so in John Andrew Story, sometime in this century, changed the words in the Unitarian hymnal to the words we sing today, and made it a song that we can sing in our church context, and it works very well for us, and many of you know it. I was surprised to know all about this. All I knew was, I knew that tune, and I remembered the opening words in the bleak midwinter, and I love the tune. So I started thinking about it along about November. It came to me, and despite the fact that we were not having a bleak fall or winter, we were having an everlasting fall, and it seemed to go on, and the trees were just starting to turn and things, and I thought, but I feel like I'm in the bleak midwinter as a metaphor for what was happening, what I was anticipating would happen, how things would become in our world. And I suspect that many of us had that feeling back then. And I had no idea how to cope with that, except to keep going. Every day, get up, keep going, do what we were doing. And so I want to talk today a little bit about what is bleak midwinter, and in this metaphoric content, not so much, although today we're sort of on the cusp of a little more bleak midwinter. Things have finally frozen, the weather has gotten cold, most of the leaves are off the trees, and the earth has become hard. And in our own lives, maybe we have become hard. Maybe we are paralyzed by fear. We are caught in a place of hopelessness, and that may be due to the politics around us. That may be due to our own lives and the story that we live, and it may also be due to the weather and its coming around and leaving us with no green and no hope in some ways. But I want to challenge us all in this time to come to a place and open our hearts to the power of love and joy. Many years ago, in one of my jobs, as happens, I'm sure, in many of your employment, the powers that be wanted to implement a business plan and strategy to create happy people at work. And this was one of many. As I learned, this was probably my second round of this kind of thing at the job I had. But many people sat there who had been there much longer go, oh, this again. And yes, they want us to have happy work. And we happened to be I was working at a children's hospital where there was lots of unhappy stuff going on. And yet in the midst of it, I always found that there was a lot of happiness going on as children led us in this way. So they came up with something, and it was called FISH, capital F-I-S-H with an apostrophe, an exclamation point, FISH philosophy. And it was based on the observation of fishmongers at the Pike Place Market in Seattle, where I had actually been about 10 years earlier, and I had witnessed that, and I thought, well, this is interesting. And so some savvy people created this fish philosophy by having gone and watched a group of people. Have you ever been there? Who's ever been to Pike Market and you've seen the fish? And what do? They throw the fish, they sing, they laugh. And actually, it's very interesting to know their story because it's a completely organic process. These were fishmongers, young people who were very bored on their job. And they were sitting there really, really bored on their job, and they thought, we could liven this up. And without permission or any authority, they started doing things, singing songs, throwing the fish to each other, and the customers were watching and were like, whoa, look at that, that's interesting. And they engaged the customers. So rather than waiting for the customer to come and say, can I have a piece of haddock? Or can I have that large crab over there? Because they're really large in Seattle. They engaged the customers, and they created an energy. And it's this spontaneous, joyful energy. And people who don't even care about fish could go and watch them and become engaged in this process. And they initiated this, and this whole thing grew out of that. So go back to the strategy that somebody decided to develop and market and probably made a lot of money off of. They had 4 principles. I don't know the other principles except for one. One principle that stayed with me to this day, and it is choose your attitude. That your attitude is something you can get up every day and decide to choose. And in every situation, you can decide to choose. And if I live in that, that has changed my life. Choosing my attitude. If someone comes at me and is negative, I can do, as my one friend said, open my arms and accept it, or close my arms and say, not me. And so I have decided in many ways to open my arms or close my arms over and over again. And even in my own business, people come in, and if they're really, really negative, I'm not going to accept their negativity, but I'm not going to fix it. I can't fix it, but I can choose how I respond to it. I can either get in the pit with them, or I can say, I'm going to stand over here and not get in that pit. And so in the bleak midwinter, when we anticipate despair, how do we choose to respond? And in reading today our book, Joseph and His Overcoat, I added his response. Thank you, overcoat. Thank you, vest. Thank you, jacket. The order's not right. Thank you, handkerchief. Thank you, scarf. Oh, goodbye, button. I have nothing left, but I have gratitude, and I have a story to tell. And the moral of the story, making something out of nothing, can be true, and it may not be true. It's what he did with it. But what do we do with it? When our attitude, how do we choose our attitude to create more out love and to act out of love in a time of despair? And as Unitarians, I'm sure you've all seen the new symbol that we have as Unitarians, grounded in love. And we affirm that love is the power that holds us together. It is not some fluffy sentiment. It is a power. It is what we all brought in today, what we can all begin to locate within ourselves, and then in the fish model, interact within each other. And we can choose our attitude. And in this time, each day I try to begin by choosing gratitude. Not always easy. And what is radical gratitude? And I don't know a lot about radical philosophies except radical hospitality because I've studied that. But what is radical gratitude? And if you look around, you'll see some people who are marketing radical gratitude. It's being grateful so you feel great and happy and good, and because you're deserving of all the wonderful things that should be coming your way. And that's not my vision of radical gratitude. Radical gratitude for me is awakening to the fact that even the least thing we have, the molecules that make up the world around us, our bodies, our hands, if we take a moment to just focus on that and say, I am grateful for that. I can choose that. I can choose to find gratitude in the smallest of things. and then expand it however we can. And I think of people I've known who have had debilitating illnesses. And in the midst of those illnesses, they have found gratitude. Gratitude for being here. Gratitude for the care they've received. Gratitude for the next step they will take. Gratitude even for death. To choose radical gratitude is to choose to be grateful for our exact moment, not for something down the road, maybe for something in the past that guides us now and helps us and informs us into where we can be. We can be astonished that the light in me can see the light in you, to look at a Quaker understanding of human existence, that we each have light, and that light may be flickering, it may be dim, but it is in there. And gratitude will not take away the harsh realities we need to confront. It does not fix things. It does not relieve us of the burden to work for the world that we want to create. But it gives us a launching place. Grateful that we are here, grateful that we have companions, knowledge that spring will come, that yes, maybe in a few weeks we'll see a bud. We all saw buds in November, which is kind of weird. But that we will see again that there is underneath the bleak midwinter a beating heart, a light, compassion, that we have companions who will be with us, that it will give more way to more love. There's a hymn we also sing, which I considered for today. There is more love somewhere. There is always more love somewhere. In this world, there is more love than hate. And it is our job to continue growing in that love, to find a place, however humble, however small it is, in our hearts, to be grateful for the love and to connect to the love in each other, to be like the fish people, to organically evolve, and to live in a life of gratitude. And even though hate surrounds us, gratitude and love will win. Gives us space to see compassion, joy, and loving kindness. Amen.
Please rise as you're willing and able to sing hymn number 118.